Hey guys, Tech Timmy here. So in this video I'm going to show you how to properly clean and maintain the George Foreman indoor-outdoor electric grill.
Oh boy, it's Tech Timmy time.
So first and foremost, someone on George's team is pretty smart in that they designed this thing so you can just crank it across your sink just like that, and it will stay up over most standard size sinks. And then what I like to do, I like to set the cover aside for now. We're going to come back to that in a second. So I'm going to just put that on the countertop behind me here. And as you can see, so there's all a little bit of grease in there and so forth. And generally these things drain really well. Unless you're cooking steak tips or sausages, that's like, or chicken with skin on it, something that's super messy, where you're going to get gunk and stuff on there. Most regular meats, hamburgers, hot dogs, chicken breasts and so forth, they'll leave very little bit of residue on here, which is awesome. And then of course we do want to get rid of the fat pan here. So we've already, I got a little bit of water in there already, so it's not as dramatic as it would normally be. But what we like to do is we like to actually drain this into maybe a little plastic cup or container, and then that's something that you can throw away, even a small paper cup, and stick it in the fridge because you don't want to run that fat down your sink. But there's so little of it today that I'm actually going to just dump it down there, and you can see that gunk down the bottom. So I'll just throw that through. I'll scrape that out into the trash and then throw that in the dishwasher, and it'll clean up beautifully. So dishwasher is a thing here. Not for the base. You cannot put the base in the dishwasher. I guarantee you it will ruin your grill. So do not put this guy in. This can go in the dishwasher, and also the hood, which I'll show you in a second. If you have, you're going to need somewhat of a large size capacity dishwasher to let that go in there. And then, so that's when you're doing the initial cleaning, leave the dripping pan in the thing, because what we're going to do is we're going to push out any additional grease. And I just like to use a very soft sponge, basically. And then here, I'm going to run the sponge over here, and then just take a very tiny, watch how little I use here. Just a very teeny tiny bit of, I like Meyer's dish soap because it's mild, and I feel like it's not abrasive and really won't hurt anything here. Probably any dish soap is going to work just fine. And I don't think they actually recommend this dish soap. You can do it without it, but I just feel like it just gets it so much cleaner. And then most standard dish soaps will have a degreaser, so that can be helpful as well. And then I just take my lovely, well, actually, where there's enough on here, let's do an initial pass with our trusty paper towels. And you can actually get this super clean just using paper towels alone. Again, if you don't have a big mess, you can already see what a difference this is making here. And then you have to be careful that you want to have that, maybe push that in the back side of the sink so it doesn't fall while you're doing this. But you can see how clean it's already getting this compared to what it was before, just by using the paper towels. Now, we're going to have to get inside these grooves and so forth, but if I took maybe 2 or 3 paper towels and I spent a lot of time on this, I could, oops, see, that's exactly what I meant. Right on cue. I planned that. No, just kidding. But these paper towels you can get it probably almost 99% clean just using the paper towels alone. But again, I'm kind of a lunatic here. Tech Timmy, if you follow my channel, you know that we're definitely on the clean team here. And I just like things to be a little bit more clean than that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the sponge as well. I'm going to fast forward through the video while I'm doing this part, just to create the difference it'll make in the clean. And then we'll take a look at the dripping pan. So here we go. All right, and as you can see, so now it's started getting nice and clean. And typically what I would do if I'm being lazy is I would just take this outside if it's a sunny day, allow it to dry outside. But I would also, when I'm not being lazy, I like to dry it in the house. I think if it's a rainy day or whatever, you don't want to put this outside with tons of water on it because it's going to get moldy and so forth. So you definitely want to avoid that if possible. And then, so as you can see, it's starting to look like new once again here. And what's that said, so now is probably a good time to cover what you shouldn't do. I would say don't use one of these on here. Occasionally, if it gets really dirty, I will, but just go very lightly, because the coating on here is really where the magic happens and is what makes it so easy to clean and also to make things cook evenly and so forth. I do believe there's some sort of a special coating on here that you want to be careful of. So don't number one is don't use one of these guys. Don't number two is on a similar vein is don't use steel wool or stainless steel on here. A good sponge, and even I would say you can go with a scrunch, but go lightly again because you really don't want to scratch up that surface too much. The other don't is, as I alluded to earlier, don't do what I just did here, which if you have a pan full of fat, don't dump it down your sink because eventually your sink is going to start clogging. And then lastly, as I also said as well, don't put this in the dishwasher. And then one other pro tip here, I'll just say, don't leave this outside over the winter, particularly if you live, like I live near the ocean here, and where the air is salty and so forth, and it literally ate at the wires. It will reduce the shelf. This is my second one. It will reduce the shelf life of this considerably. So don't leave this outside. I would say take it in for the winter. Leave it outside in the summertime. Definitely cover it up. And then not to go too crazy, but try not to get this wet. As you can see, there's a little bit of water in there right now. But try not to get those coils wet in there. You definitely don't want them getting rusty because that, again, is where the magic happens, and that's where you attach your heating element. And then also, as I had said, I told you I would come back to the hood as well. So what I do with my hood, I'm just going to turn the camera over here. So this is my dishwasher, and I have a fairly standard size apartment dishwasher here. And it's a decent size, but again, the brilliance behind the engineering on this thing, it actually fits in there perfectly down the bottom. And then I like to take this. Obviously, you can't do it if you have a whole bunch of dishes in there. I like to take this guy as well, and then throw it right in there. And easy as that to clean those parts. And then the last thing that I like to do, again, after it all comes out, and because I'm a crazy person when it comes to cleaning, I just wipe the whole thing down, the outside, the inside, with the Windex wipes, get any of the soap residue off from the thing. And then also, the other thing, I'm going to bring the camera right back over here. The other thing you can do is wipe these down with the Windex wipes as well, because they're going to get greasy over time. And then the other thing is with the hood, you'll notice that there's just no stopping grease from getting up under that hood over time. So mine's new, so it's not going to be too dramatic, but this is going to get a little bit ucky in here over time. Mine looks brand new because I've only used it a few times now. There's not a lot that you can do about that. I would say don't go crazy with SOS, still will anything else. But if you guys have already figured out a way to actually clean this well, once it gets greasy, drop a comment down below. And so that's my video on how to clean the George Foreman indoor-outdoor grill. Hope you guys got some value from this. If you did, you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up. Helps out the channel a lot. And enjoy being on the clean team, guys. That's definitely the way to go. And please subscribe for a fun take on tech. I do all sorts of tech videos where I clean all sorts of random electronics, but I do way more than just cleaning videos. So hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.